it. And so that would bring me to my fourth point, if I can find the share function again, which is to use the webcam well. Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I've been noticing even during this recording that I've been using it well in some cases and not using it so well in other cases. And when I'm using it well is frankly when I don't have so much on my own screen and I can look at that little green light right up there that tells me my webcam's on and I'm looking at that. And when I do that, it's like I'm looking at you more, right? And so that's really important because you don't want to be looking over here. You don't want your camera like angled somewhere else with a bunch of stuff in the background. You definitely don't want, I see a lot of people do this. You definitely don't want an angle so it's like looking up your nose. That's kind of gross. You know, so you really want it kind of focused in on you. You want a background that's hopefully not really visually distracting. I think mine's kind of neutral today with my bookcases on the wall. And you really want to encourage other people on the session to turn their webcams on too, because so much of our communication comes through nonverbal right here, nonverbal communications. It's the eye contact, it's the hand motion, the body language, you know, the eyebrows going up, all of that. And when we can see each other, you know, we get a lot more richness in the communications. As a presenter, I can see what's landing better, right? Just like I could if I was in the room with you. So, you know, teach people how to use their webcams, encourage them to use their webcams, and take some time in advance to prep your webcam and get comfortable looking at it and really kind of using it in a way that, you know, helps people see where you are and you can see them. So let's go back to the slide deck. We'll go to this and we'll share it again. And the next point is to control the audio. So here's what I mean by that. When you're presenting to a group of more than 7 or 8 people online, you'll probably want to start the meeting with everybody on mute, okay? And ask them to raise their virtual hand if they have a question or a comment that they'd rather speak than type, okay? The reason you want to do that with larger meetings is because there are always barking dogs in the background. There are always people that are trying to call in on the phone and their computer mic is on and they get feedback and it creates really a bad experience from an audio standpoint for everybody in the session. So the easy way to address that is to put everybody on mute to begin with. And then you've got a roster of people over here that you can look at. You can see the hands going up. Oh, Sue, you wanna ask me something or you wanna make a comment? And if you're willing to do that as a presenter, I can click Sue, unmute her, and then Sue talks, right? And so she asks her question, we can have a little dialogue back and forth. And that'll set me up for another point I want to make later about how to keep people engaged. So let's go to point number 6, which is as the presenter, okay, there's my point about the audio. So you don't have to be perfect. That kind of proves the point. I wanted to show you that little microphone picture, but I forgot about it. So anyway, point number 6 is you set the weather. So what do I mean by you set the weather? I mean that as a leader, as a presenter online, your energy is completely the deal. However you show up in your energy, if you're engaged, other people are going to be engaged. If you're like monotone and like talking to the computer instead of pretending like you're talking to people that are in the room with you, because kind of they are, you know, they're just virtually in the room with you instead of physically. And you wouldn't just like talk in a flat monotone voice probably if you're together. Don't do that online either. Just pretend like you're having a conversation because you are having a conversation. And if you're engaged, they're much more likely to be engaged. If you're modulating your voice, they're going to pay attention. They're going to be less inclined to pick up their phone and start checking Twitter or Instagram or whatever they're going to do, or their text messages or whatever. So keep it engaged. You set the weather. If you show up with energy and engagement, most likely the other folks will too. And so that brings me to the last of the 7 points that I want to make. If we get back there, where did it go? Oh, here it is mix up the mix. So what do I mean by that? The way you hold people's attention is you mix it up in terms of what you're talking about and how you're talking about it. So you don't want to present for more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time without getting people engaged through some kind of means. Now I know I'm doing more than that in this video because we're not interactive right now. But if we were actually live and interactive in this webinar, then I'm going to ask you pretty quickly to raise your hand on this yes or no question, like how many of you are finding it challenging to not travel for business? Yeah, I find it challenging. Raise your hand if that's the case. Okay, raise my hand. Okay, wow, everybody's raising their hand. So let's talk about how to overcome that challenge of not being able to travel for business. Um, Give me a quick answer via chat to the question, to this question. What are your best strategies for staying engaged with your customers when you can't travel to see them? And so people are writing in, and I may be reading a few key responses that I'm seeing online as they're writing it in. Oh, you know, Sam said this, Betty said that, uh, Jane said this. Great comment, Bob. I mean, yeah, you're totally spot on with that, Bob. So it's like we're having a conversation, right? It's just via chat. I'm kind of facilitating that. You can run a simple online poll. Zoom and most of the other platforms have really simple polling opportunities. I'm not going to do that here because there's not really any way to do it, but it's like, you know, pick A, pick B, pick C, pick D around a predetermined question that you've arranged prior to the session. And that's kind of fun because it kind of helps people see where they are, you know, compared to the norm on different questions or issues. You can solicit questions via Q&A and read the questions and then answer them in real time. Or if you're bold, you can open up somebody's mic and have them ask the question live. You lose a little bit of control over the session that way, but quite often it's worth it to do that. One thing that I've done, kind of this is the 201 version, you know, of things that I've done as opposed to the 101 ideas that I just mentioned. As a coach, I like to do coaching sessions, right? And so in virtual sessions, quite often I'll ask for a volunteer ahead of time who would be willing for me to coach them for 5 to 7 minutes with everybody else listening in on an issue or a topic that pretty much everybody on the call could relate to. I don't make it super personal, but I just want to talk them through a business issue together and, or, you know, maybe how they use their time and attention against the goals that, you know, they have to accomplish this year and what the best ways are to do that. And then it keeps it interesting for people because everybody likes to listen into a conversation, right? You know, it's kind of like eavesdropping. So we'll maybe do a coaching conversation, or we can use the handouts that I talked about earlier and take 2 minutes to fill this worksheet out on the energy map, right? And so like, what energy do you need to show up with in a meeting coming up? You know, write in your answers, and then let's debrief that via the Q&A, via the chat function, maybe call in a few people to share, you know, through audio speaking, what they learned. You know, there's just all kinds of different ways you can mix it up, and you want to keep varying it throughout the session, right? Because it's like people get bored quickly. They get to, you know, kind of, you know, put their attention elsewhere quickly. So you really want to mix it up. So we've talked about 7 big ideas. I'll just recap them for you. Design from the room, go multimodal, show people how to play, use the webcams well, control the audio, you set the weather, super key, and then mix up the mix. Those are my best practice lessons learned for leading compelling virtual meetings and presentations. They've worked for me and my clients. I think they'll work for you. I'd love to hear your success stories as you use them, or if you have any questions about what I've talked about here, want to go deeper, leave a comment on LinkedIn and I'll answer it. Or if you want, let me go back to the screen one last time. You can put it up here, email me, info@eblingroup.com, and I'd be happy to be engaged with you in an online question. So hope this was helpful. Put some of this stuff to work. Let me know how it goes. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.